Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to a very special edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the editor-chief here at FLZ. To my left, you're right at home. He's one of our featured editors here at FLZ, and you know him from the new Comic Book Day reviews. Give a warm welcome to the one and only Rich.
How's everybody doing? Excited to sit down with some awesome creators today because, listen, I have had this really good run of crime comics, and this is adding to that list in a big way.
If you are not familiar with what is going on at Invader Comics, you need to get familiar because they're dropping a lot of great series. But this one in particular absolutely floored me when I read this. It was something I was not expecting because I do like my crime stories. But when you throw a supernatural twist in like you had in issue 1, you instantly hooked me and made me go, wow, what is this? And fortunately, we have the creators of this book on the line with us. And the issue number 3 is going to be dropping in late April. So if you FOC'd it already, you're good to go. If you didn't, by the time we are done with this episode, you had better be running to your comic shops and hoping they have an extra copy along with issues number 1 and 2. Because let's face it, you got to get the whole series. You can't just get one. So please give a warm welcome to the creators of Do Not Disturb, David R. Flores and JAROD Hunter Roe. Guys, what is going on?
What's happening, fellas? Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I love that intro.
It is completely honest because, my God, I read issue 1 and I was like, holy, I can't swear this early into YouTube, but you understand where I'm going with it. This was like, I did not see this coming. And then once we get rolling with the story, it goes places. So let's start off with, how did this whole story come to be?
It kind of came to be because Dave and I have been writing together for a while. We're screenwriters, and Dave had pitched me the idea of doing a comic series out of a previous screenplay we'd written. And so we did that together. That was our first book called The Inspectors. And so then we decided to follow that up with something that wasn't a screenplay. Like, let's do something strictly for comics. And we kind of pitched ideas back and forth, and I'd had this idea previously about a Die Hard takeoff, but from a paranormal angle in a hotel. Like someone's trying to exorcise this hotel to get these ghosts out, kind of like a Ghostbusters Die Hard thing. And Dave and I knocked that back and forth, and nothing really ever came of it. And so we shelved that idea. But then when we decided to do another comic, after we did The Inspectors, we kind of revisited it and we just kind of reapproached it. And I don't really remember how we came to what we came to, but when we decided we wanted to do a short 4-issue run on a comic that was inside a haunted hotel, it just kind of expanded from there. We just, Dave and I sat down and just started shooting ideas, and whatever we thought was good and made us laugh or, piqued our interest, like it just kind of snowballed from there. And then we realized we had something because we were starting with this kind of, detective noir trope, the PI, the jaded PI, but then the supernatural thing it just changed it enough that made it interesting for us. So I don't know. That's my answer. Is that what you'd say, Dave?
I'd say, yeah. Like when we first came up with the idea, I think it was more like Halsey was always a detective, but we find out that he's a ghost after the fact. We had a protagonist. It was almost seemed like it was more like the ghost trope from the movie from the 90s, where you had this person that was like going specifically sent to the hotel to exorcise it, and then she encounters Halsey and they work together. But then, like, as we were kind of getting bumped with that idea, and then when we decided to do another comic book, we revisited it, and then I think it was like, why don't we take these like familiar detective film noir tropes and add a supernatural spin to it. And I think long story short, that's how it came to be. This version of Do Not Disturb.
Well, that's awesome. So now that we know how you guys came to do it, and obviously there was a little bit of what the synopsis of the story is in there. Let's just elevator pitch it for anybody who has not. And I mean, I hopefully people have definitely read this, because if you haven't, just go out and get it, because it's amazing. The first 2 issues are out already.
100%.
And it is definitely, you will not be disappointed. But if you have not read Do Not Disturb yet, what would be your elevator pitch to any readers who haven't?
The elevator pitch would be a private investigator who's searching for a missing girl in kind of a shady, rundown hotel, goes to find her, and he finds her. Unfortunately, in the process, he gets killed, and she gets close to killed. And he finds that he's now a ghost in this hotel, and her soul is in the hotel as well, but her body is still kind of clinging to life at the hospital. And so it's a story about this ghost, or this private detective, dying, and then deciding that even in death, he's not going to let that stop him from solving the case. And so he's going to try to help her and figure out who killed them. And it just sends him down this path of discovering what this hotel's about. You run into other ghosts that have died along the years, quite a few other ghosts that have died along the years that are still in this hotel as well. And it kind of acts as this semi-purgatory for them. There's a line in the book where it's not heaven and it's not hell. It's just this place where they kind of keep existing. And he's a detective that doesn't want to just keep existing. He wants to solve the case. And
it goes from there. And my God, it's so good. Like, we cannot rave about it enough. But now going into this series, like you alluded to, you did the inspectors for Blue Fox Publishing, I believe.
Yes.
And then now going into this project, what would you say for both of you is the biggest creative changes you saw from that project to this one?
So when we did Inspectors, it was a screenplay. We specifically wrote the screenplay first. So it was more of an adaptation, streamlining the story, and then also adapting it for the comic book medium. With Do Not Disturb, we specifically out of the gate, we're like, okay, we're writing this as a comic book. So we know the panels, like it's in some ways it was freeing, like, because where you're constrained with the screenplay and you're like adapting it, and like you're trying to figure out what's important, what's not, what do we leave in, what do we take out. With this, we were just, because it was from the ground up, we were able to just kind of explore it more. And I think because also with the screenplay, you're confined to the actual story, because you've already created the story. But when we're doing the issues for Do Not Disturb, we knew, we needed a cliffhanger for the first issue, second issue, third. And that going in, I think that was what made it very different, because we're writing for comic books. We're creating the panels for comic books. We're creating these cliffhangers in these cliffhanger moments. And we had to really dial in the story, knowing that if it were ever to be made into a TV show or a movie, if it does live on in that way, we'd have to expand it. Whereas I feel like with Inspectors, it was already expanded. We're condensing, and with Do Not Disturb, we're writing it smaller with the potential of it being bigger. Like if we have another follow-up to the series, which we had talked about, Jared and I discussed the possibility of that. So I think that's what was the cool thing about Do Not Disturb, is like, as we were creating that story and the history of the hotel, realizing that it can expand outward. And I think with like Inspectors, maybe not so much with that, because it was like a finite story. Like we knew it started and it ended. But with Do Not Disturb, it's like we do have an arc. There is a conclusion, but it opens up so many different potential stories within the confines of that story.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, between the two, Dave was really the one that introduced me to making comics. I'd gone to school for screenwriting. Movies was kind of the medium I knew. I'd read comics a little bit, so I knew what they were, but I wasn't engrossed in them, you know. And so Dave kind of taught me how to adapt, because kind of how we divvy up the responsibilities is we write together, and Dave does the art, and then I mostly do the rest. So when it was a screenplay, I adapted the screenplay to comic book form. And in doing so, you know, we already had this product, this screenplay, and it was hard to kind of figure out what to keep, what to get rid of, how to pare it down. And with Do Not Disturb, like Dave said, it was kind of freeing in that we didn't start with any preconceived product. We could just do what we wanted, knowing what the product would be, if that makes sense. And so, you know, keeping dialogue a little less, like we didn't have to trim as much dialogue. We kind of wrote it knowing, okay, in these panels, we don't want too much dialogue, or we want to make sure it like moves really quickly. There was a much bigger editorial piece with the previous one that we had to do than on this one. And I think Dave's art, honestly, has improved as well. Like it looks like the book really looks amazing. Inspectors looks good too, but I think just like anything, you know, you get better by doing. And yeah, so I think on the whole, like it's just a matter of, you know, we feel like we made progress with this book, like just potential to get better as we go.
Yeah, you can definitely see that. It's a great story, but yes, the art is also fantastic. Like I said, like there's some of the reveals and stuff, you know, you really nail it with the art, and it really takes it there. But at the end of the day, this is like, not to try to lump it in a bubble, because it's hard, because there's a lot of moving parts that go in there, which is awesome. But it is a classic crime noir with a real heavy supernatural, which is really kind of awesome. And it kind of also deals with different eras and times. With all of these moving parts going on, what was the biggest draw for both of you writing like basically a crime book, and just adding elements to it to kind of flesh it out a little more?
I think what was the I think it's just like we like playing with genre. Like so we've written a few screenplays together, and a lot of the time we like to kind of, I wouldn't say subvert, maybe it is subversion, but we like taking different genres and seeing like, how can we twist the trope? How can we do something that's a little different? So I think part of when we were tackling Do Not Disturb, it was like, we look at it from a kind of a screenwriter lens. And I think that's probably how we'll probably approach it moving forward. We've always have, because we've been writing screenplays. So I think it was the idea of just taking that film noir and adding, like, because we had the supernatural element, and then adding a film noir, but not just film noir. Like, I think another way that we subverted it, and I don't know, I feel like subversion almost implies like, oh wow, you just like elevated it, like, are you trying to put some seasoning on it? But and I use that term loosely, but I think another way that we wanted to change it was like, we wanted to make it fun, you know, not just dark, not just this morose protagonist searching for this girl, like, and that's what we did with the inclusion of the character Oscar. Like, Oscar is the guide, but he's kind of like this Burt Reynolds, Tom Selleck, happy-go-lucky character that we wanted to infuse some humor into the story and lighten it up a little more. So I think it was almost like taking that kind of comedic, film noir, supernatural, and then putting it in a blender and seeing what we get out of just like the whole frap.
Yeah, when we introduced the idea of kind of traveling through these different time periods of the hotel, once we did that, we knew that we could have a lot of fun with it. And we kind of felt like if we didn't embrace the fun of that, then we weren't really doing our jobs. What's the point? And because, you know, all sorts of characters could have been in this hotel, you know, funny people, not funny people, you know, and we just, yeah, like Dave said, it was fun for us to write. And as we're knocking ideas back and forth, you know, like Oscar put a smile on our face. We're like, this could be a lot of fun. Why not do it? And it kind of plays into our sensibilities anyway. You know, Dave's a little more art house, and I'm a little more like popcorny. And so that kind of somewhere in the middle it just kind of fits our personalities as a team, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
Plus, with the decade, the idea of the history of the hotel and how it had this long history, and we have going from the 20s to the present day, like we were able to play with the whole gangster mobster period, like almost back to the like Public Enemy, right? So you have these gangsters of the 40s, right? And then you have this kind of neo-noir present day with Halsey. So it was like playing with these particular genres as well. So I think it was the mixture of all of these things, an amalgam of all these things that we were just like, wow, it's kind of like playing with all these different tools and just seeing what we come up with.
Yeah, I definitely dug it because like you have, like you said, you have like this cool, like, 1920s, prohibition mobster kind of feel to it. But then like the Oscar character for me was like amazing because like when you said that, I was like, I envision him like not just because of how he's drawn, but I envision him like Magnum PI Miami Vice with like a real comedic value to it. It was like, it's such a great character, and especially like when they go into like the bar and it's like, oh, this hasn't been renovated since the 80s, and he was like, and he's just like, what's wrong with that? Like he's like, and I'm like, as soon as he said that, I was like, it's perfect. It's like this Magnum PI in Miami Vice world. It's great.
Well, that was like Jared was like saying because he wrote that segment, he was like, I kind of pictured the bar like something from Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Right. You have like the neon lights and stuff like that. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's almost like a throwback to like that show and an homage to Michael Mann, so like, why not?
Oh, it's perfect. Like I say, every time I see him come on a panel, I hear the Miami or Magnum PI theme going on. Like every time when he's going on, it's just like, it's just another great, character part of the story. But Jared, for you, talk about Randall for a bit. Like, even though he's, has always a loser sense to him, this case really brought something out of him that I don't think anybody saw coming. Would you say?
Yeah, I think like anybody, myself or any other person in the world, everyone has these moments where they feel like they're not living up to their potential or what they could have done or what they should be doing. And he was firmly in that camp and in that world. And once you're killed, it's over, right? Like there's no going back and changing it. And I think for us, turning this into a paranormal story where this PI who is down on his luck is now dead, he literally has nothing left to lose, except for whatever is out the front door. And that's really the main thing he has to lose. And, we used the scene, not to give it away too much, but it has been out for a few months if you haven't read it. So there's the scene where he's literally sitting over his own body and he hears what the other cops are saying about him, about what kind of cop he was. And I think we just use that as like the springboard. If you could hear everybody at your funeral just talking crap about you and you had a chance to do something about it still, like you had a chance to kind of change the narrative, even though you're dead, like, wouldn't you take it? Would it motivate you? And we kind of use those things to put a fire under him, to be like, okay, you're dead, but it's possible you could still get something out of this. And so that's kind of the approach we took with it.
Yeah, that scene was actually a lot of fun. Like when you get there and you're just like, because like you're as the reader, you're just freshly finding out that he's dead. And that's also where you get to find out that Oscar's also dead. When he's like, you can talk to me? Like, he's like, yeah, I'm dead too. Like, what you obviously I can talk to you. And then we learn about the shortcuts. And that's always, so there you go. We're not giving away too much, but that's why you have to check it out. David, tied into that, we just kind of touched on it, is the big supernatural. Not only is it a crime story, not only is it kind of like a book about redemption in a lot of ways, and it's a lot of fun, especially with time jumps and all the stuff, but the other big giant thing is all the supernatural stuff. So when you were working on that, how did you kind of balance all of the like the crime stuff that's obviously the central part of the plot of the story with also these amazing supernatural things while still keeping it kind of grounded?
Wow.
I was a wordy one.
No, well, like I think that was like the tricky part, right?
Yeah.
So I think when we were coming up with the actual story, like, yeah, because you have the main plot, right? Where who killed Halsey, you know, but it's also him discovering the hotel, right? And all the nooks and crannies of like where I could jump in here and jump that. I think it was just like we knew that maybe that was just kind of the plotting that we're kind of used to when we write. You know, we're breaking down the story, and then we know that certain things have to happen. That as the characters developing, we have to unfold the actual plot A, right? And then you have the B plot of the characters, and like how does everything all that resolve? But I think like something that you bring up about the hotel, another aspect of it is that we have to. The hotel's another character, right? It's opening up all these things about the hotel that we just scratched the surface. And then as we were writing the story, like, it's like, wow, we could really go in a lot of directions with this. So it's also trying to figure out, how far do we go? Because we have to rein in the story, right? How much do we explore with it? So with Randall and his discovery and I think the most fascinating thing is when we were working on it, we knew that we wanted the hotel to be a little different, especially the afterlife. And I think it was the idea of you check out through the front door. Like, how do you travel through time? Like, what are the mechanics of it? Like, oh, there's a portal, and you can jump in and out of different periods, but you don't really know. There's really no roadmap. It's almost like you have to figure out yourself. So I think that was a balance between doing that and then plotting out Halsey's arc and getting to the end. And it's I think it's just trial and error. Like, I think as we were writing it, we wrote a treatment, and then we'd have to figure out where things didn't work, where it was a little confusing. Plus we had an editor who when he went through it, he was a little confused at certain points, so we had to kind of clear up some of the confusion, which was nice. We had a third person kind of chime in. That was Barnett Brutler, and he was helpful in that way. So once we were able to clear up sort of the mechanics and the arc of Halsey and the plot A and get all that resolved, I think everything just started falling into place. There was more cohesion. We were able to kind of connect this with that. And
I think it was partially born out of kind of the whole, the paranormal world was partially born out of when we were discussing the idea. We had to figure out, okay, what do we do once this private detective has searched, 16 floors of this hotel and he can't find the girl? Like, where does he go from there? There's nowhere to go. And so when we introduced the idea of time travel and going back to the different eras, like now there's places for people to hide. You could be in the 1920s, you could be in the so he has to search harder, and it gave us a way to kind of open up the story to visit new places, find new people. And so it was really just an expansion on the main story we were trying to tell to begin with. It was just an added layer of that.
And that's on full display on issue 3 coming up.
Ooh.
Okay.
So that's why, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, oh wait, I don't want to reveal too much, but you really see that as Halsey is exploring the hotel.
I mean, I'm already sold on issue 3, but this has now just got me fully locked in for it. And David, you must be using some psychic abilities here too with the supernatural talk, because you kind of stole my question here a little bit, because I was going to say, arguably the biggest surprise character of this book is the hotel itself. So for both of you, was there any time period that you've discovered or we haven't seen yet that was your favorite, and why?
That's a great question. Jared, I mean, I actually have to think about that for a second. Maybe Jared might have an answer for it.
I can't say there's a favorite. I really enjoyed, because as Dave said, we kind of divvied up the issues. We both wrote each issue, but one of us would take a first stab at, So I think Dave did 1 and 3 and I did 2 and 4. And then we traded them back and we tweaked each other's work. But so in issue 2, when I introduced that Miami Vice bar, that I think that was my favorite thing, because it was we talked earlier about the idea of introducing humor into this detective noir story. I had to ask Dave, I said, is this too much? Like, is this too goofy? or will this work? And he kind of came back and he said, well, you know, if this is a hotel with 100 years of history, why can't they renovate something and do a bad job, you know, or make, I mean, I guess it's a good job if you want an 80s bar, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't age well, you know what I mean? And so I think for me, that's just my favorite because of how outlandish that bar looks, you know, like you expect Don Johnson and shoot, I forget the other guy's name. Crockett and Tubbs.
For me, I think it was like, I don't like, once again, I don't want to reveal too much for issue 3, but I think it's Oscar's vibe, which is 70s, right? So that's probably my favorite, with a close second being Belsario, the main heavy, because he's of that time period. And I like his lingo. I like how he kind of talks that gangster talk of that time. So yeah, I think probably the 2 of those would be cool. And you know, the contemporary is the contemporary, right? We live in that moment right now, so it's like, okay. But you know, the older times is cool.
The best part about you saying about Belsario's lingo, I was happy. There was part of me that was very happy, but part of me that wasn't happy that you didn't go with the stereotypical. Because I was like, it would be good for the initial joke, but then he doesn't seem like the heavy of the book. Then he just seems like a caricature of himself. But it was kind of like, when I'm reading it, I'm like, it would be kind of funny, like, oh, copper, come to get me.
Edward G. Robinson,
yeah. Totally. Get out of my hotel. See,
what you're looking for the dame? You're looking for her? Yeah, no, you're not gonna find her, copper. You got a better chance. But yeah, it's a lot of, it's still a lot of fun. And like I said, in that earlier question, it was wordy, but like, believe it or not, this book is not confusing at all to follow.
Oh, absolutely not.
Easy to follow. Like it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts, and I know some people might be like, wow, with all these moving parts, how do you follow? It's you make it super easy. It streamlines through. The plot actually works out in an amazing play out,
and nothing feels forced with it too. Like even with the different eras, like the pacing with it is just so smooth that you just wind up just going with it. And then obviously with what Randall gets involved in, like it never feels like anything's forced. Like it's just a very easy transition.
Thank you.
I mean, I think that just goes down to the amount of time Dave and I spend writing it together, because you know it's not often in comics there's a writing team, right? So a lot of people are kind of writing in these vacuums, and I'm sure they show their scripts to people, but Dave and I really have to knock these ideas amongst his brain and my brain before we ever move forward with it. It has to work for him and it has to work for me. So I think a lot of our ideas get beaten up in the early stages. And so by the time they actually get to the page, hopefully, if it works for Dave and it works for me, then we kind of trust that it'll work, because it wasn't just in my mind and I hoped people like it, or vice versa with Dave. We kind of have to test these ideas against the other person. And Dave and I don't always agree. We have similar tastes, but they're not the same. And so I think our ideas kind of have to go through that trial by fire a little bit. So hopefully that shows when it comes to readability.
It does, and it's always a good thing. Yeah. Because I mean, it's very rare that you get 2 people who think the exact same way, and it doesn't always work out creatively. Like, I mean, even, in anything you do, you always want to make sure you have somebody that balances you out and can kind of check in and kind of bring a separate, look at and eyes on the project, that therefore you don't have to worry about it. Cause like, let's be honest, it's the same thing with like writing anything. Like if I'm writing a review, sometimes it's better to like, I find myself either saying it out loud to my wife or messaging Ken, like, does this look right? Like cause like in my head, it's perfect,
right?
But it's not. So I understand completely, and having somebody else look at it. And now I'm going to try to trip you up a little bit, because I know Dave has been walking the fine line of not giving spoilers for issue number 3. And I don't want any spoilers, because trust me, as a fan, I want to be surprised as well. But we did end issue 2 on a rather bit of a cliffhanger. Spoiler free, keep it spoiler free. What can we anticipate in issue number 3 coming out later this month?
You can anticipate some action. There's definitely some movement to this, where is some of the other issues was Halsey kind of walking around discovering things. There's a little more get up and go in issue 3. You learn a lot more about Oscar and how he came to where he is in the hotel. So
key revelation
yeah,
happened to Halsey, or who was the person that caused his demise. So
yeah, there's actually a lot that goes on in issue 3, and part of that is because it's only a 4-issue run. So we have, there's some things that we have to resolve in issue 3 to get us to the climax in issue 4. Let's just say that.
No, it's completely fair. And I'm expecting a lot of fireworks with this one too, because like you alluded to, it's only 4 issues. Is there any talk, or has there been some ideas about expanding this universe after, or is this going to be the last time we see the Argyle for a while?
Well, Jared and I, we've talked about it. I mean, we had so much fun writing it. We had so much fun with the characters that were created. And I think there is an avenue that we could totally go down. And I think a lot of it is based on the reaction to it when it's concluded, like the 4-issue run. If or people love it, if we're getting really, really strong responses from it, then I think Jared and I would love to do a follow-up to it and explore the Argyle further. Yeah,
definitely. It's one of those things where we would love to keep doing more in this world, because we feel like the world's rich. And, with the characters we're introducing, Dave and I both were like, oh, I'd like to see more of this person or that person. It's always hard to gauge with an indie title like this, because, we're not selling at dork levels. You know what I mean? So you never know what the reaction is going to be, or if people would want to see more. But the people that have taken the time to read it, we've definitely gotten great response back. And I think that makes us much more inclined to, revisit it. Because like Dave said, we did have a great time writing it, and we've got ideas for more if it comes to that. And if Invader would want it, that's part of it too.
As a selfish fan, I want more personally.
Right.
There's so much, there's just so much, the creation of the Argyle alone lends itself that you could do 1.5 million things. You could do other things with the characters, but you could do different characters, different, it's kind of like its own franchise machine if you really wanted it to be. But people buy it. There you go. So that way we can have that franchise machine. Yes. There it is.
I don't think we thought of it that way. I mean, I at least I didn't. I don't know if Jared did, or I don't even know if we had that conversation, but the Argyle, we created how the mechanics, the history, the all this kind of time travel stuff, but we never thought, or like I said, I didn't, that there would be a follow-up or a potential follow-up. So it's great to hear that. It's great to hear other people say that, because as we, Jared said, and what I said before, we had so much fun writing it. It would be really cool to kind of revisit this hotel and check back in. And
I think after it was done was when we kind of started thinking that way. We didn't set out to say, oh, let's do multiple volumes of this book. But once it was done, Dave and I liked it so much. And then we thought, man, this would be fun to do again if people like it. And then as we put it out, people have liked it, which is great. So yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. We would love to do that. So never say never. We are working on a different project at the moment, but we're definitely open to coming back to the Argyle. That's for sure.
Yeah. For some reason, when I said the franchise machine, I kind of see it in its own way. You can do an American Horror Story kind of thing, where you basically each season is different. You can change it, but that central piece is the building.
Right.
Because you could always have that central piece, because that central piece lends itself.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities with the Argyle that whatever way you want to go. And the one great thing about the series too is it has a great word of mouth buzz to it, that talking to fellow fans and online and getting the reaction for everybody who's read this. There's definitely a buzz behind this. So after issue 3 drops, I expect that to even explode more. And, hopefully that drives the sales up too. And everybody, we can't stress enough about FOCs and making sure that after issue 3 comes out, when the FOC is up for issue number 4, everybody gets multiple copies.
Yeah.
Because why would you just want one? You need to have, one for travel with.
Yeah, that's why I said one for the collection, one to read. That's how I always work it. There you go.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford it, of course.
Yes.
Anyway, but I will say this, and I know you brought it up. And at first, Jared, I'm going to be honest. I thought Ken sent you a list of our questions because you seem to be a question ahead every time. Because on this show, not only do we try to stress out the importance of FOCs, and the reason why we're doing that is because independent comics is undoubtedly on one of its biggest booms, and because of which smaller publishers do not have the run means, and that's where you end up with situations, as you alluded to, like Dork, where you go to the comic shop because you hear about this book that you can't get your hands on now. And the best part about it, and I've said this, and I'll stay under my soapbox the whole time, and is that you can find anything in independent comics.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just stick with what we know as comic books. It's really evolved the game, because any genre you want to find in all of media is in independent comics right now. You want to know where the best horror is, it's independent comics. You want to know where the best crime stories are, independent comics. The best comedies, independent comics. Like, all of that is under one roof. So it's a great boom period. And as two people who are creating inside of that bubble, if you will, what are your thoughts on the independent comic book scene currently?
I mean, it seems like it's blowing up. I mean, Dave and I when we started doing comics, we just thought, because Dave is an illustrator and we were screenwriters who were frustrated with not getting our movies made, we just thought, let's just do something, get a product that showcases what we can do. And since Dave was an illustrator, we went down the comics route. And Dave has a background with comics. He grew up reading them, and he's, and so we didn't necessarily know, or I don't know how much Dave knew, but I didn't know much about the indie comic scene. Dave introduced me to Image when I was first kind of getting my feet under me in comics, and I realized there's so much more to comics than just superhero. I started reading Ed Brubaker and Mark. Sorry, is it Millar? Dave, you always tell me I pronounce it wrong.
Miller. I know I've said Millar, but it's Miller.
Yeah. So Brian K. Vaughan, and it opened my eyes to where there were so many different avenues, and our colorist, who we owe a big part of what this book looks like, is he's been working with Mad Cave, and there's all these different indie publishers, and even people that aren't indie publishers but are going the Kickstarter route and releasing books that way. And it just feels like people are hungry for more. I mean, obviously DC's having a great run with like the Absolutes books and all that, but it feels like there's a hunger for more and different. And so it seems like a great time to be in this space, I think
it's circumstances too, like with Diamond kind of imploding, and then you have like all these creators going to Kickstarter, and then you have these even with Lunar kind of dealing with the distribution now. I think there's more opportunities. So for people like us, where I know when we were first starting out with Inspectors and trying to find a publisher, it was a challenge, and maybe it still is. I mean, I think we were lucky. We're fortunate with Invader that they when we presented the story, they were intrigued and they were excited about it. But to what you were saying, I think there's that indie voice, just like in films, because Jared and I were involved with film. We love film, but with when Miramax first came on the scene, it's just this kind of independent voice. Now you have A24. It's kind of going against the grain in a way. So it's great to see that that's happening in comic books, because like you said, if you have a particular story that you're looking for, it's out there. It's out there. And it's also, these are stories that are, maybe would be hard to get out there through Marvel or Vertigo or whatever. But as an indie, you're like, yeah, there are now platforms that you could put these stories out there and find an audience, which is, I mean, what you said earlier, Ken, that you said that there was a buzz with Do Not Disturb. I'm like, there is? In some ways, I didn't know that. I wasn't even aware of it. But if there is a buzz with Do Not Disturb, I mean, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for anybody that talks about it. we're so grateful for that because we just want to get that story out there. I mean, we do it because Jared and I do it because we love it. We just love telling stories, and hopefully people really take to them so we can keep doing them, keep making more stories.
And I feel like that's also the kind of the heart of the indie space is people do it because they love it.
Mm.
Right? A lot of books before publishers even get involved are done, or a percentage of it is done, which means the creators are, you know, putting up their own time, their own money because they love these stories. And I think whenever there's that kind of heart and passion behind something, a percentage of it is going to be really, really good and different and new that people aren't necessarily used to because there's this newfound passion for something. You're not just hired to write, you know, nothing against superhero comic books. I like them. I like a lot of them. But, you know, when you're being hired to write somebody else's creation, that initial passion might not be, you know, as bright.
There's something to be said definitely for having something creator owned,
Mm-hmm.
because it's amazing. I'm a big Batman fan. It's amazing if you get the job writing Batman. It's a dream job. I'm sure most people would love to write Batman, but there's only so much fulfillment I think you can get from, and so much leeway you can get with the character. Whereas with a creator owned thing, you can basically form your own journey. And we've seen so many great books, Do Not Disturb included, where you have something different. And then you can make a noise, and then somebody over here goes, "Oh, wait a minute! I didn't know you could do this in a comic book. Oh, you can have a story about a crime story with spirits and time travel. Well, that's not really time travel, but you know what I mean, like era jumping.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you told somebody that before, they'd be like, "Well, no, comic books is cape and cowl, like that's what we got, superheroes." And I feel like that now people have opened up to this whole new world, and like, because somebody like me as a horror fan, like you have. Both the independents are working for that now, because horror has kind of gone real independent in the movies as well, but also in comics. Like we're getting a lot of those as well. So it's kind of like one of those real weird realms where genres are starting to bleed in. I love independent film and I love independent comics. And yeah, I'm just kind of like one of those weird, I guess it's because I grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird, let's watch all the indie stuff and like snub our noses at the big production stuff. Like, get out of here.
I mean, one of my favorite comics is Shortcomings, like that book by Adrian Tamina, and it's like an indie movie. I mean, they eventually was made into a movie, but or like Love and Rockets, like it's not superhero based. It's just real life and characters living their lives. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So before we let you go, we just got a couple of fun questions to ask on the way out. So obviously, Do Not Disturb is a great crime mystery story. What is your both personal favorites crime stories of all time?
I'll say it. Like I love The Long Goodbye, the Altman movie. That's like one of my favorites. LA Confidential, Chinatown. Or Body Double. Not Body Double. Body Double's a good movie, but I was thinking about the other movie, Body Heat.
Okay.
So, but these are all like film-based movies. But like with Jared, Jared's actually the one who introduced me to Ed Brubaker. Writes great great crime books, and I just recently got a book for Jared, and I picked it up by Darwin Cook, and it is I forgot the title of it. Harker, thank you. Yeah,
IDW for that.
Yeah.
Complete box, the omnibus, whatever you would call it. So I just started reading that.
Good book, Jared.
Yeah, like Dave said, I'm a big Ed Brubaker fan. As a matter of fact, I just started reading Friday, which I've never read. I started reading that today, which is kind of different for him. It's a little crimey, but it's more YA, like kind of supernatural. But it's still good. And but yeah, like my crime tastes in movies are weird. I really like this Jake Gyllenhaal movie about 10, 15 years ago called Nightcrawler.
Yep.
It was kind of dark and twisted. It wasn't really a crime, but he ends up committing crimes. So, there's also a movie that I really loved called The Machinist many years ago with Christian Bale.
Right?
And it really isn't. I don't really love it until the very end reveal, and then it all worked for me at that point. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. Or,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of crime comics, though, I have to say Ed Brubaker is my favorite. I'm not sure I could pinpoint a favorite because I'm still, like I said, Dave got me into comics, and I feel like I'm still going through the back catalog of comics over the years that were great, and I keep collecting things. So I feel like I'm still trying to catch up from all the time I missed. But Ed Brubaker is my current favorite.
Say that's not a bad place to be, because then you have nothing you can run out of. Like you get to a certain point and you're like, I don't have anything else on the shelf, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I have more. That's always a great thing. Following that question, and you can use movies, TVs, books, whatever you want. What's your favorite supernatural story?
Wow. Well, you said movies, right?
You can do movies. You can do anything.
Whichever genre you would like.
Would devil possession be like? I love The Exorcist, but I don't know if that's supernatural.
That's supernatural.
I'll
and exorcism is you are doing possession is supernatural. It's still basically like you don't have to do a ghost story per se.
I mean, I just like that how it felt grounded. I mean, it had a really human story, and then but I thought all the elements worked. I get The Conjuring, the first Conjuring was really cool. I mean, I thought that was supernatural scares were really good with that as well.
Absolutely.
I'll give you one answer that seems cool and one that's not cool at all. And the first one would be Ghostbusters. Obviously, I love Ghostbusters, and I think not that Do Not Disturb is anything like Ghostbusters, but that kind of fun playfulness is an element in Do Not Disturb as well. And my very non-cool answer would probably be Ghost. forget the pottery scene. Like, it's a very well done ghost story. He's trying to solve this mystery. It's in some ways, similar, and it's really well done. Like, in the end,
I agree, Jared.
It makes
I mean,
not me, obviously. I don't cry, but it could make others cry.
The answer would be like Jacob's Ladder, right? But I think Ghost is it's a heart. It's you really get the feels watching that movie.
I was gonna say I don't think Ghost is a great answer. It's you have one of the it's weird because in a movie where you want to say you have one of the best villains,
right?
In a movie that technically you would be like, well, there's not a villain, but there is. And then he gets his comeuppance, so it's I guess it's in a creepy way, but it's
he's that smarmy friend that tries.
And the element where they're dragged to hell was it's a nice little.
I've always liked Ghost as well. I mean, you could have gone right on the nose and been like The Sixth Sense because
right.
you discover somebody's dead at the end.
I would say the second best supernatural comic ever written was called The Inspectors. Published by Blue Fox Comics.
Well played.
Listen, we set it up there. You just knock it out. There it is. That's how you have to do it. You have to get in there. So make sure you pick up The Inspectors as well. Like it's out there.
Oh yeah,
get it. Shops are open.
Definitely make it happen. But the last question we have for you, because obviously the Argyle has many floors to it. But let's say there was a secret one that was discovered. So if there was any era of comics or movies, like a universe per se, that you would like to cross over with, legal reasons not holding you back, like if you wanted to go with a major property to and kind of cross over Randall and company with, who would it be and why?
I don't know, maybe because you mentioned Crockett and Tubbs before. It'd be kind of funny if Oscar ran into the two of them, like into some kind of Miami den of criminals. I don't know. That's a interesting question, because like now your mind's like thinking, well, it could be this or it could be that. Like what, how could you do? I don't know. It's like kind of like a mashup between like Superman and Spider-Man and the Marvel and DC and putting them together. Yeah.
For me, it'd probably be Terminator, because it'd be kind of funny to watch, or fun to see the T-1000 like chasing you through all these different dimensions and trying. Well, I guess he couldn't kill you because you're already a ghost, right? But maybe toss you out the front door or something. I don't know.
All of a sudden you have Arnold, cameo by Arnold.
Right. Right.
The golf coach if
just walks into this other era and there's a naked guy just kneeling. He's like, oh no, I better get out of here.
You have to shake your head and close the door.
Yeah, just-
like
Yeah.
that's always a good bit. You open the door, you see something you don't want to see. You're like, all right, we're just gonna close this and
Exactly.
back out.
I'll throw Downton Abbey. Like it has no
Okay.
time, but like just it's a completely different world. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Um,
The world is the oyster there. That's what I would envision. This like like you open it and go into somewhere and you see what it is and you're just like, yeah, not today, and just close the door and just walk away.
Yeah, just like a 2-page epilogue or bonus scene. Just
never mind. Click.
Yeah. But
like you open
regardless,
it-
like I say, the possibilities are endless with this. But whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're listening to podcast form, Do Not Disturb is a series you do not want to miss by any stretch of imagination. It is so many different themes all blending together, giving you a story that really crosses over into so many genres. And it'll absolutely blow you away because when you think you know what's going on, they throw a curve at you and it'll completely knock you on for a loop. I love this series. I know Rich does. I know a lot of people that we talk to on Fan Light Zone socials are raving about this too. David, Jared, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We definitely have to catch up with you after the series is wrapped up.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yes. And in the liner notes of this episode, whether it's YouTube or podcast form, the links are for invadercomics.com. So you can go order it, and definitely your comic shop's locator, because you want to make sure you get out there and go buy this book and go get issues number 1 and 2 if you haven't done it already. That's the homework assignments for that. So on behalf of Rich and myself, thank you again for checking out another edition of Fan Light Zone Presents. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Ooh, ooh, talk to me. Ooh, talk to me. It's such waste of time swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.